traveled from Puerto Rico up to Wellesley by herself. In those days, what a gutsy thing to have done. I mean, very few women went to college in those days, and to have come from this, protected Latin environment to the States, and to do that was really pretty extraordinary. You remember her, don't you, Aunt Leah?
Yeah.
Amazing woman, totally amazing. Funny, and so Mother met her at the college club in New York when both of them had Aunt Leah was, I think, the class of 1912 at Wellesley. Mother was the class of 1916 at Smith. And it was pretty unusual for women, to have gone to college in those days. So they bonded and had a very good time together. And that's why she was asked to be my godmother. And she was a wonderful godmother. When I think of the number of times I was asked to be a godmother, and it's just always been a terrible one. Really terrible. I mean, in the beginning I would try to be, but...
Who were you godmother for?
Oh my Lord.
Too many?
Many too many.
Yeah.
And of course, by the time Dad was also asked to be the godfather, but by the time that happened, it was strictly an honorary thing, and for somebody who would give you presents. The idea of a godmother or godfather was that if anything happened to your parents, that was the person who would make sure that your religious training went on. But anyway, at one point I think there was something like, I don't know, 10 or 12 people who asked us to be godparents, or that I was
Did you
asked.
always agree?
Well, yeah, because it's kind of an honor, so
Right.
you don't turn it down. And for many years,
So
I would send
So
Christmas
how many of those
presents.
do you remember?
I can't think of a single. Well, of course, I was asked to be a godmother for Bambi, but that one was a serious godmother. And then when I was very apparent that I was not appropriate as a godmother, so I don't even think about that one. But and actually, one that I didn't even realize, but Gay von Henneberg put me down as her godmother. I hadn't realized that for several years. She was the one who did it instead of her parents asking me. But my best friend Needy Conzi's son Ben Bentley, and for years there's a picture in our wedding album of me holding a little baby, and that's her son. And I never saw him after that. They moved to New Jersey, and our lives were totally different. And one of the sad things is that of all the really nice, kind, good people that were so wonderful to me all the time I was growing up, I've never had anything to do with since then. Our lives are just completely different. And I did go back. One time I had to go to a meeting in New York at the time that my class at the Greenwich Academy was having its 50th reunion. And I knew I wasn't going to be up to too much of it, but I did go to a class dinner, maybe a class tea or lunch or something. And the minute I walked in, I realized that I was in the wrong place. I mean, there's very nice people, but our lives are completely different. And I think I was probably in the front door of the school and seeing these people. Within 3 minutes, one of my classmates had made some really nasty remark about Hillary Clinton. She had just been,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Clinton had just been elected president.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really nasty. And it
Mhm.
was apparent
Mhm.
that I was just in this swarm of diehard Republicans.
Mhm.
And also people who essentially married the people that they'd gone out with, when they were in high school.
Right.
And the house they lived in was right here, which was 2 blocks away from where they'd grown up. And,
Right.
it was just a very, very different group.
Mhm.
The school continues to send me very fancy catalogs or whatever, and the school is very, very different now, and very cosmopolitan and multicolored and everything else. And I'm sure a really interesting school now.
Which
Or-
school is this?
Greenwich Academy.
Greenwich, okay, yeah.
But boy, back in those
Mhm.
days, when I was there, it was totally. And I think actually, Ethel Skakel and I were really kind of strange. We weren't out of it by any means, but unusual in that I think we were the only 2 Catholics in the school.
And she married a Kennedy?
Robert Kennedy.
Robert Kennedy.
Who was assassinated.
Right. Did you go to their wedding, or?
I didn't. I was someplace else at their wedding, which was an immense blowout at a family's place in Greenwich.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was out in, at Reed College. The summer I went out and did a whole thing at Reed College that summer.
Like a summer internship? Sort of
Not
thing?
internship, it was a whole summer program. It was a wonderful, wonderful program. With the teacher, my dance teacher from Smith, was running it, and she had asked me to go out there with her. And it was just a brilliant, brilliant summer. We put on some wonderful performances, and it was very exciting. Lou Harrison, who got the McDowell Medal 4 or 5 years ago, was our composer. He composed music for the dances that we did, and one of the dances I performed, I was the king in that my teacher had choreographed when she came back to New York. Merce Cunningham, who was a very famous dancer, took over the part that I had. It was about an Irish king, so it was much more appropriate for him to be doing it than me. But anyway, a very interesting time. And it seemed a whole lot more important than going to some of these weddings. So anyway, we hadn't seen much of each other for years because her mother took her out of this is Ethel Skakel, her mother took her out of the academy and plunked her into a Catholic school. And we'd actually had a whole lot of fun and been quite close before then. And at one point, our mothers, Mrs. Skakel and my mother, decided that their daughters ought to go off to a retreat at the Convent of the Sacred Heart in Noroton. And I think we spent a week there. This is magnificent estate. It was a white marble palazzo with a white marble swimming pool, and then all these nuns of the Sacred Heart. And we were supposed to be quiet and not talk, but just think and meditate for a week. And actually Ethel's sisters were quite naughty, and they came and would smuggle us food and pop and soda and stuff and leave it at the gate of this big place. And we weren't. And I remember being taken for a walk by one of the nuns, trying to find out if I felt I had a vocation, if I might want to become a nun. Anyway, But after she left the academy, I didn't see a whole lot of them
Mhm.
after that.